Hello, class. I'm looking forward to learning something new with you today. So let's just start off. I'm going to go to the Google Classroom page, how to edit the document and do the work, okay? So you see you have this, pages 3 to 5, exercises. You see I did one, and it's pretty simple. You can just highlight it, and then above here, you can bold, italicize, underline like you would, okay? So if I said the exhibit was very interesting, the exhibit were very interesting, I would say the exhibit was very interesting because it's singular, right? Good. Now there was a prepositional phrase I deleted from there, but we'll get into that as we go into the packet. Now let me just go to the bottom. So this one says underline the subject. You could underline whatever. You don't have to underline. Underline the subject, then circle the one that agrees with the subject. Okay, so the electric computer solves difficult problems. So underline the subject. Basically, you click on an electric computer, right? So boom, I'll just go and underline. Solves or solve. I'll just bold in it. In circle, you can just use bold instead of make it bold, okay? An electric computer solves the problem, okay? It's one singular. Solves is singular form of that verb. Now, one little confusing thing. Let me go right to the packet, okay? They say singular and plural, but in English, the plural is also the same. So when you say I, it's singular, but it functions like plural. It conjugates the same way. I don't say I works, I work. And the same with you. You are one person. I'm talking to you as one person, and you work. And there's really y'all. We have y'all, but there's no second person plural in English. The only one is y'all. But in other languages like Greek or Spanish, there is a second person plural. Um, sas. There is no sas in English. Yasu, yasas in English is just hi. It's a little different. Now, so we've all gone over singular verbs, singular nouns, subjects match with singular verbs. Now remember, we're talking about the subject, singular subject. The subject is the noun or pronoun or noun phrase doing or being what the thing is about, okay? Now, because English doesn't conjugate, if I say any verb, most regular verbs, it's like I eat, you eat, she eats, but then others like we eat, they eat. It's like the same verb over and over. It's like fao, efaga, efagas, efagan, fame. Is not like you don't change it based on whether you're doing it right now. The verb doesn't really change very much. And so, in order to describe how this verb is happening, essentially we need what's called a helping verb. And so pretty much the helping verb will describe the state of the verb. So here's an example. The motor is running. Is the helping verb. The verb phrase, which is running, is basically a phrase that functions as a verb. You can't conjugate running to be like to show it's happening. I guess the Gurren does that. But you have to kind of add another verb to do that, and that verb usually to be. So is running. The motor is running. So when you have a verb phrase, you conjugate the helping verb, okay? So the motor is running. These motors are running. Now, these aren't the best examples. I would think of a better example to take the future tense, okay? If I say the motor will run, okay, I conjugate will. I will. I conjugate will, not run, because I would say the motor runs. But once I put in the helping word of will, you conjugate it that way. And now will is the same for everyone, however. But you wouldn't conjugate the second verb. You wouldn't say the motor will runs, even though you would say the motor runs, okay? You conjugate the helping verb. Okay, the other rule, ignore prepositional phrases. Just cut them out of your life. I mean, no, you use them, but just ignore them when you look at which subject gets the verb, or how to get the verb to the subject. So every one of the students tries hard. The windows in the house stick easily. So you see, every one of the students is just describing the one. One is the subject, every one, right? Of the students is where that individual is. He's in the group of students. But you're not talking about the plural students. You're talking about that one. You're talking about everyone. So this prepositional phrase doesn't count. The windows in the house. Okay? So we're not talking about the house, which is singular. We're talking about the windows, which is plural. Okay? So we ignore prepositional phrases. Now you cross out groups within commas. A positives, basically, because usually those within commas, you can exclude them from the sentence. The doctor works hard. Okay, I'm putting my finger. If you don't look at it, you get rid of the crossed out. The doctor works hard. You can get rid of that. The girls, along with their dogs, walk daily. You can cross those out, okay? And another thing you can do is cross out word groupings beginning with either, or, and neither, nor. Now, this is a little bit trickier. The way this one works is it's actually called the rule of proximity. You use the one closest to the verb, okay? That's the rule. The one that's closest to the verb. So let's say if I said, neither the teacher nor his students were there. Now, the students is closer. And it sounds stupid, but it's actually the way it is. If you said, neither the students nor their teacher was there, it sounds like wrong. Was ready. You would still say, but you use the one closer, and I don't know why. Then you can get it wrong, and no one will really check it, because if it sounds right and it's technically wrong, that's kind of how languages change. But that is the rule. Okay. Okay. Now, 2. Find the subject. Remember, the subject cannot be one or the words that you crossed out. Okay, this is wrong too. One of the words that you crossed out in number 1. Okay, so every one is the subject. Okay, of the students works hard. The girls, along with their dog. Okay, so you find the subject. Okay, 3. You select the verb here. So then it says every one, singular subject. So it's one, right? Of the students, and then you select the verb, tries hard. Okay. If the subject is plural, choose the verb ending without the s. And now, of course, if the subject is plural, yeah. If the subject is plural, but also you do that if it's singular first person and singular second person. Okay, if two subjects are joined by or by nor, it usually agrees with the nearer subject. Yes, that's the rule, okay? Nor or. If you add them, then it's different. The students and the teacher were. You would do that if you're combining them, okay? And even with that, when the second one is singular, it still sounds a little funny. So you can kind of get away. I'm just saying what the rules officially are, but you can kind of get away with making it plural. So the students and the teacher were happy. That you can kind of get away with it. I don't see when it's going to really be a problem. But technically, I'll link you the source. Okay, and so basically now try substituting they, plural pronoun, when you use a plural verb without s. Try substituting he, she, it, singular pronouns, then use a singular verb with s. Doctor works. Cat runs. Windows stick. He works. It runs. They stick. Okay? So that's just another way to kind of get. Either the vase or the dish was. So singular verbs. Neither the teacher nor his students were. Okay, so very good. And now we're basically going over practice sentences. So now I'm going to basically go over, and then what is this here? If the relative pronoun Who, what refers to one? It's a singular verb. Who, which, that, whose. Okay. Right, the plural noun, it's a plural. Okay, so the relative pronoun is just the pronoun. So students who attend. So this one would be plural because it's students. Okay. Okay, so if he is one of those persons who never grow. So here's its plurals, okay? So basically you can see, I mean, this is not that helpful because it's basically, it's not the pronoun you're looking at. You're looking at either persons or students. You're seeing the noun itself, okay? But anyway, so let's go over the worksheets, and I'll just basically, if you're going to listen to this, you can get the answers, and we'll go over it together, okay? Mr. Andrews, along with Mr. Stone, okay? You see that's in the commas? Do volunteer work, okay? Because it's, even though it's a group, this isn't a positive, right? So this, you can get rid of that. You can get rid of it, Mr. Oh, wait, you say does, okay? You see, it does. It's a little tricky. Mr. Andrew does volunteer work. All the salesmen, so you could get rid of that, including Mr. Stone. So Mr. Stone is singular, but he's in commas. So next him. All the salesmen were at the meeting, okay? So there we go. Now don't delete it in your actual one. I'm just doing it for an example. Every one of the girls, who's the subject? One. So it would be does. Because we're not talking about the girls. We're talking about the individual one. Okay, we're talking about the subject is singular. It's either Julia or her friends are planning. Okay? Okay, because it's the one that's closer. Okay? And you notice how they always put the plural one towards the end. That's another trick to make your writing make more sense. So if you're like either me or my friends, my friends or I will. Well, you would put yourself in the later because that's considered polite. But like either Michael Jackson or his brothers will do something. Either I don't know, Justin Bieber or the Disney Squad will, or well, that would be two singular things. Either we will either have Kanye West or 15 cats arrive at your birthday party. It's a little ridiculous, but so okay. So we have that. Let me move on a little more. And then both of the carpenters are, because it's plural. Okay, we're talking about both of them. Okay, that's a little obvious. The women as well as the men sing. Okay, now this you could do either one. The women, but it's separated by a comma. So the women are the subject, and this as well as the men is separated by a comma. Okay, we can get rid of that too, right? We can get rid of the men. The women sing. Okay, most of the nurses, there's only one subject, nurses. So it's work, it's plural. Okay, so now we just say if it's singular or plural. That's pretty obvious. There's not so much time to go over that, so we won't. And then we'll go over this final part. Okay, underline the subject, then circle one that agrees with the subject. An electronic computer, I underline the subject, solves, because it's one thing and it solves. Okay, many colleges, so what are the subject? Colleges, right? So I'm going to just underline that. Okay, I can do that, or I could click on this. Okay, colleges is plural, so I will say, I'll hit bold, have. Okay, and so that's basically it. I'll just do number 10 to finish us off. Every year, scientists. Oh, that's so easy. Scientists is a subject, right? Because there's many of them. Every year, scientists. So I'm going to underline scientists. Discover, because that's plural, right? Boom. And I can go over more answers individually if you need more help. Have a great day.